Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions, 540-0580. 540-0580. Call in. We'll answer your legal questions here on the air. No charge to you. Can't beat that. If you got a chance, go to weekendappointment.com. Of course, you can claim your free will, but we have a good article up there. I finally just bit the bullet and said, I've got to write this and get it out there. Had so many people starting to, in the last couple of months, email me or contact me about issues with their Facebook postings, particularly in the employment setting. Folks have this notion in their head, and I explain it in the article, that because they've restricted who can see their Facebook posts, so only me and my 32 closest friends or my 300 closest friends can see this. I don't even let friends of friends see my rambling posts. Whatever security settings you think you've put on there. And if you want to talk about this or any other legal topic, it's 540-0580. They think they've somehow controlled it and that it is not public, and that if it's used against him, it's somehow then a violation of their free speech or their privacy. I'm always fascinated when people bring free speech into employment situations. Unless you work for the government, free speech has absolutely nothing to do with your employment. That said, just go to weekendappointment.com. You can read the full article, but you'll learn that you have very little expectation of privacy in any posting you put anywhere online and any communication you send. So take a look at that article. Go to weekendappointment.com. Go ahead and give it a read. I think about 500 people have read it so far, and I thought it was just worthwhile doing because so many people have been asking us about it. And also just a good reminder, because if you have a custody case, I can't count the number of times these days where the Facebook page comes up and we're in custody court and here are your posts. And the worst part about it is you got to worry about the judges, because some of the judges don't seem to know what Facebook is still. I mean, I think they kind of do, but if they don't actively use it, and of course, because of a judge's job, I don't think it's in their best interest a lot of times to be an active Facebook blogger or poster. They tend to have less experience with it. And one of the areas that I see problems, and again, if you want to talk about this or any other legal topic, it's 540-0580. One of the areas I see where they have trouble is understanding the concept of comments. So let's say you post something and then another person comments and somebody else comments and somebody else comments. The lawyers will try to make it appear somehow that the comments reflect on you. And maybe it does tell us something about your friends, but sometimes it's really kind of drawn out of context. And as you know, people can comment in ways that have absolutely nothing to do with what you've posted unless you consciously remove the comment. And even if you did remove the comment, that wily ex-spouse may have saved it, downloaded it, and printed it out already. Same thing with your Facebook chats. Same thing with your LinkedIn and your MySpace, if you're still using MySpace. So anyhow, read the article at weekendappointment.com and you get a feel for it. 540-0580. You have a family law question, a personal injury question. We do a lot of personal injury law in my practice, so we're always happy to help answer questions like that. I also just caught something interesting in the Pennsylvania prison population recently. Apparently, the state has seen a small decrease in the number of inmates to the point where they're scrapping building one of the prisons. They were going to build 2 prisons. Now they're only going to build 1. Currently, just to give you an idea, we spend $1.7 billion a year as a state on the state prison system, and it employs about 16,000 people. But the population's down a little bit, but there's some more sentencing changes on the way that are going to make it harder for judges to keep people in the county, which means the state population's probably going to swell again here shortly. One of the other things that they're seeing, and they think part of the decrease has been that the Board of Parole has been a little bit nicer when it comes to violating people, and they're not holding minor infractions against people like the way they used to. And I think that's just a realization that we can't afford to keep incarcerating everybody and their brother and for nonviolent offenses. We have a real problem in Pennsylvania with filling up the prison with people who have no history of violence, with drug mandatories. And so, for instance, a person who sells a few grams of marijuana in Pennsylvania for the very first time can end up with a 2-year prison sentence under the right circumstances. Carla.
Hello?
Yes.
This is a question for Carl. Carl, I listen to your show every weekend. It's very good.
Thank you.
My employer, I'm working 32 hours per week, and my employer told me that if I would like to still keep my benefits, I have to work an extra 8 hours. And if not, they're going to remove my benefits. And the second part is that I work extra hours every day, and they used to pay me overtime for all those extra hours. She said that they're going to remove that because that was a mistake, and I've been paid like that for 2 years. It's something that I can do.
So they're saying in order to get benefits, you're going to have at least 32 hours.
At least a week, yes. Yeah. I need to work in a 2-week period, 72 hours.
Okay. And historically, you were getting more than that.
Well, I know. I was working only 64 hours per 2-week period. But they changed, the management changed, and they want me now to work 1 extra day.
Right.
But I used to have benefits for 2 years with those with that kind of a schedule.
Right. Well, a lot of employers have different levels of what they think is full time, and what I mean by that is. For instance, when I selected my health insurance for the employees in my law office, one of the questions that they had for me was, what is going to make people eligible? What do they have to be? And I said full-time, and then they wanted to know how we defined full-time and whether that was going to be 20 hours or 32 hours or 40 hours. And so I think each employer is free to do that. To the extent that it becomes a decrease in your compensation, if they take it away, you may be eligible for some form of partial unemployment because of the effective decrease in your compensation. But what they're going to say is that we're willing to give you the hours, and we're going to need you to work the hours in order to give you the benefits. And I'll give you, from the employer's standpoint, remember this: if they're paying you a benefit like health insurance, it has a flat monthly cost to them, and so it's costing them more per hour to let you work less hours. So I don't think there's any legal problem with them doing that.
Okay, but I was being employed in that way for 2 years. Right,
but so I don't think there's any reason why they can't change it.
Oh, so they can change it any time.
I think they can, yeah.
Okay, and how about the overtime that I used to have? It's extra hours on plus of the 8 hours that I've been working.
Right.
And if I stay a couple hours, they will pay me that as an overtime all the time. And now they want me to sign a contract in which I forbid those overtime hours. Let's say if I work 2 or 3 more extra hours, I will be paying the flat rate.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think they have to pay you overtime until you get over 40 hours in a 1-week period, so they're probably okay on that one as well, unless somebody wants to correct me on that.
Okay, and if I disagree with that, if they can fire me, and the thing is, can I get unemployment?
You may be able to, because it may be a material change in the work conditions, but the short answer on that is I would really want to think that through, and I'd be very careful, because it seems to be that unemployment these days does everything they can not to put you on unemployment. So the long answer is I wouldn't just quit at that level and assume that you could get unemployment. I'd have to really think that through and map it out. And we want to do a real dance with the employer and document everything in writing as well.
All right.
I got to go to break.
Much, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you. 540-058. We'll get back from the break. We'll talk to Steve. Hey, welcome back. Here I am answering your legal questions. And, of course, if you need to get a hold of me throughout the week, just go to weekendappointment.com. You can get our phone number, my email, contact us so you can see us in the office. We've got 5 lawyers in 3 locations to better serve you. Steve, you're on WHP 580. What's going on?
Hey, Carl. Thanks for your service.
No problem.
question. I'm sure you run across this before. A friend and I had a deal to buy lottery tickets, and we were going to split it if we hit. That was the exact words. If we hit, we're going to split it.
Okay.
Well, he called me about 6 weeks ago and said, "Did you check your tickets from Saturday?" I said, "Yeah, I didn't have anything." He said, "Well, this was on a Thursday. 5 days later." He said, "I hit." I had already looked the numbers up. Powerball was like, the odds of winning $7 are pretty strong. I said, "Let's just roll it over next week." He said, "No, I hit." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I had all 5 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
$200,000 he hit for." So I'm immediately thinking I'm in for 100. And then he says, "But our deal was we were only going to hit if we hit the million one." And I said, "Well, wait, that wasn't our deal."
Right.
And he said, "Well, that's the way I remember it." But he said, "Look," he said, "I'm getting $150,000 after taxes." I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "I drove to Harrisburg and cashed it and signed a ticket." So I was thinking, I said, "Well, we should have signed that ticket together." Well, I already did it. And then a series of emails back and forth that, "Don't worry, I'm going to cut you in," and all this, but never how much. He got the check 2 weeks ago for $150,000, and all of a sudden, towards the end, when I was sending him emails saying, "Did our check come yet?" And he said, "No, not yet." Now all of a sudden the emails are saying, "Well, my wife was here when I had the conversation with you, and she remembers me saying it was only going to be if we hit the $1 million one," and it's all changed. It started off, the emails in the beginning were saying, "Well, look, we're going to split this up somehow, but never a percentage." And now, I'm probably not going to get anything.
Right. Now, here's the question. Did you guys have a contract or not?
No. This was a friend.
Well, no, I don't mean a written contract. I mean, here I'm asking you, this is a rhetorical question. Me as a lawyer saying, did you guys have a contract? And so the answer is, if we can figure out that you did have a contract, you would have the right to enforce it and maybe collect your half of the winnings. If you didn't have a contract, then there's nothing you can do about it except, not pal around with this guy anymore. So the short answer is you might have had a contract. I have to think this through, like what's the consideration and the agreement. But, there's a case out there called Click Lewis where the car dealership left up a sign that says if you get a hole-in-one, you win a car. And it was there the next day, and the guy hits the hole-in-one, and he gets the car.
Right.
And they were saying there's no contract, and the court says no, there was an offer and an acceptance and by performance.
This would be a verbal contract, and the only thing I would have would be the initial emails where he said, yes,
where he acknowledges that you guys had these discussions before.
Right.
So here's my answer for you. My answer is, why don't you contact me off the air, and I'll explain to you what you could do to potentially collect some of this money.
Okay.
All right, and I'll make it worth your while, because what we'll do is we'll do it on what we call a contingency fee, and it won't cost you any money. And if we get any money, then you'll pay.
Okay.
Can't beat that, can you?
Should I do it through email, or should I come over to the Carlisle office?
Why don't you make an appointment, come over to Carlisle and see me.
Okay.
And tell him that I want you to meet with Eric.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right, my friend, and then I'll fill Eric in on the background.
All right, thanks.
All right.
See you, bye.
Oh, boy. Yeah, those lottery things. And there would have been a better way for them to claim it, which what we would have done was probably create a little organization between the two of them. 540-0580. John, you're on the air.
Yeah, hey, Carr, how you doing?
Good.
I'm calling in regards to, I got divorced in 2007. Had an agreement with the wife. I was a co-signer on a line of credit that our 2007 income tax would be used to pay that off, and the line of credit would be closed out. I come to find out when I refinanced the house, because I bought her half out, that the line of credit from one of the local credit unions was still in my credit report. And come to find out, she received the income tax but never closed the account out, never
paid it down.
Yeah.
And we have that as part of a marital settlement agreement?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, she's in contempt of that, and what we would do is file a petition to enforce and get a judicial order for her to pay that down.
Right, because I just got another letter from this company, local credit union, again, saying a payment. I've kept all the letters for the last 2 years I've had from them, because she's always late on payments. I haven't paid a thing in. I've talked to her, but now I've gotten another one in the mail just yesterday.
Yeah.
And,
we deal with these sorts of situations quite often where somebody defaults on a marital settlement agreement, and the law has pretty good tools for it. The only danger is if she's wasted that money, and doesn't still have any of it, the judge can't squeeze blood out of the stone, but she could still be sanctioned, and she could still be, the contempt powers include the possibility of prison in these things. So,
Right. Okay.
all right. So if you come see us, we'd be happy to help you with that one. That's a pretty easy one from my standpoint. The other good news is if your agreement was written right, it may have an attorney's fee clause in it that would let us recapture anything you pay me. Although, again, blood and turnips.
Yes, sir. That's if either party would file, then if the party that filed won, then the other party would have to pay the cost.
All right.
Okay.
Take care, brother.
Thank you, sir. All
right.
Bye.
540-0580, answering your legal questions here on the air. Shirley.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Is there a legal procedure for putting a parent in a nursing home?
Well, the short answer is if they don't want to go.
Right, that's the situation.
If they don't want to go, you can't make them, okay?
Okay.
But you can if you're their guardian. And that's where we go to the judge and we say, Judge, here's why this person is no longer capable of making the right decisions about their own health care or physical needs. And we allow sometimes two kinds of guardianships, one for the person and one for the estate. Guardian for the estate can handle the finances. A guardian for the person can handle the medical affairs and physical location and things like that. Oftentimes the guardian is both, but sometimes it's just one because sometimes some people are just not capable of making the right choices about their health care, but for some reason can still manage their money or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, it would be the guardianship process. And what you would usually need is a doctor to say, at this point, this person's not making rational decisions and isn't capable of making them. Because here's the answer. If I'm just making bad decisions, but I know what I'm doing and I'm competent, that the court can't fix.
Oh, okay.
So what we would want to do is talk to the healthcare provider. And
she has a person that comes in and helps her a couple of times a week, but she just doesn't feel she needs much help, and she's 92 years old and living in another part of the state away from relatives.
And a doctor would be, her treating physician would be the one to contact and say, hey, would this be is she ready for a guardianship at this point? And here's our concerns. Mm-hmm. And to the extent that the doctor can, they will sometimes, kind of indicate to you that if they were called, you would find their testimony helpful. Sometimes they'll indicate to you that if they were called, their testimony would not be helpful.
Mm-hmm. And then you proceed from there.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. If you're a first-time listener of the show, make sure you go to our companion website, weekendappointment.com, where you can download the free will kit. And you get a real live free will. You meet with a lawyer, get your will written by hand. It isn't one of these cheesy do-it-yourself from the business store or a robot that does it online. And we go over all kinds of good things. Jens?
Hi, Carl. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I had a quick question. I'm a very small business, do decorating for weddings and so on. And on all my contracts, I have terms and conditions at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had this done by a lawyer 3 or 4 years ago. Did a proposal the other day for another lawyer and found out later, after he asked me to change all my terms and conditions, he's getting everyone in the wedding to change all their terms and conditions to showing that we're liable for everything and taking away his liability completely.
Right.
So my natural inclination is to say, no, I won't do the event because my insurance, my legal and everything is based on how these terms and conditions are written on the contract.
Right.
Just want some thoughts from you.
Well, here's the answer. I mean, to the extent that he wants to force liability on you, I guess you could probably absorb your own liability, but is he also trying to force everybody else's liability on everybody else? I don't know exactly what terms he's trying to put in there.
Well, basically reversing the indemnity clause.
Okay, so he wants you to indemnify him for anything you do.
Yes.
It's the problem with dealing with lawyers.
Well, and I looked him up, and he's been a lawyer for like a year and a half now, and so I'm sure he's doing his due diligence.
Young and eager.
Right. But I also compared my contracts to any other company similar to mine, and we're about identical word for word.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like I'm different than anyone else in the industry.
Yeah, no, this is just somebody who's trying to micromanage. Let me tell you what happens. When a kid gets out of law school, the first thing they do is they fight their parking ticket, okay?
Yeah.
And my point is they haven't figured out yet that you don't need to fight your parking ticket. Just pay it. It's not the best use of your time.
Right.
Here, the guy, I guess because he's a lawyer and has this great legal knowledge running through his head, he figures he has to modify all the contracts, and I guess he sits around and he'll chuckle with his bride-to-be and say how he's cleverly limited his liability down against, typhoons and hurricanes and earthquakes and falling over wedding cakes.
Yeah.
But
Because my natural inclination is, I won't change my contracts unless I have a lawyer look over the changes.
Here's my question for you. If business is wait, you don't have to answer this. It's a rhetorical question. If business is really good or good enough, don't compromise. If you're starving to death, sometimes you got to eat a little, possum. So if you're starving to death and he wants to futz around with a contract, I guess you go with him. If you're comfortable enough, then don't change your position on, because obviously if this person's being difficult on the front end, they're probably going to be difficult on the back end.
That was my inclination. I just needed to kind of run it by somebody else to see what
that's listen, we know this. When a guy walks in my office and the first thing he tells me is he had to fire his last 3 lawyers because they're all idiots, but he's sure that I'm the right one, that's my warning sign, right? If I take the case, expect to be fired in 2 months.
Right, yeah. That's the only reason I even considered it is I've spent, an enormous amount of hours preparing all of this proposals and everything.
Right, and you're already kind of sucked in a little bit. I understand.
Yeah, but it's not worth, because I'm going, all right, this is a $5,000 or $6,000 contract. If I have to spend, $800 or $900 having my lawyer go through everything,
right,
that's going to be.
And then if you don't, and then this guy might, decide to flex his newfound legal skills later to try to disgorge money back when he's not happy too.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just wanted to run it past somebody.
All right, I got to go to break. Take care, brother.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
540-0580. See you guys after the break. Hey, welcome back. 540-0580. Whew. Turning out to be a pretty nice day out there, I think. Different from the snowstorm we had a little earlier this week. Made the plow drivers happy. I know that because I saw one in my lot the other morning. John, you're on WHP 580. John.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I spent the last 2 years working for an organization, actually a nonprofit organization, in a section of their business that was for profit. I was employed as a salesperson. Basically working about 30 hours a week.
Okay.
3 weeks ago, they terminated me, and in doing so, they said it was part of a reorganization. But what happened with the reorganization, what they did was bring in a much younger person, and told me, even though I don't have it in writing, they told me that they were doing that because they could pay him from different funds. 2 years I was there, I had nothing negative in my file, outstanding reviews, and the fact that I'm 74, I think I'm just wondering if I have a case of age discrimination here.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If you have a job and you no longer have a job and somebody who's much younger than you suddenly has basically the same job, we certainly would say on its face it looks like age discrimination without more. Mm-hmm. That's the without more question that would really come into play here. And so, on its face, I feel like you have a pretty strong claim. Now, what they're going to counter with, I guess they've already kind of told you, is, well, we can pay him with different funds than we could pay you. But why is that? Why couldn't they pay you with the same different funds?
Because he is a consumer in their program. He's actually in their handicap program.
Oh, okay. So they're saying...
And what they're doing is they're paying him out of funds they get from the state, so they don't have to charge his salary against the department.
Hmm. Well, that's even more interesting. So you got discriminated against because you're not, I guess the term is what, physically disabled or handicapped?
I am disabled, but...
not disabled enough?
No, that never came into play.
Interesting. But I'm saying, it's interesting that they would say, well, because he qualifies for certain... You know what? The short answer is what I would have you do, and if you were in my office, I would look at you and I'd say, why don't you do this? Why don't you go over to the Department of Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission and fill out their intake information and let them start an investigation.
Okay.
And they will then determine whether or not they think that this is what happened. And their investigation will usually turn up some useful information one way or the other, but they're more the experts on it than I am. But nonetheless, on its face, like I say, anytime you don't have a job anymore and somebody much younger has it and you haven't been fired for cause.
No, I wasn't.
Right. Then there's something going on. The next question is whether it's justifiable or not.
Mm-hmm.
And here the question is, I guess they're saying is we had to reorganize. Maybe they can legitimately show they didn't have the money or it was cheaper to do it this way and this other guy qualifies for the funds. But I don't know if that's an absolute defense or not.
Okay.
So I think it's worth investigating.
I appreciate your input.
And it sounds like you're over 40, so that's part of the prima facie as well.
Yeah. I'm 74.
Yeah, that's what I picked up on. So I saw this before. I had a guy in the computer industry, and I know that they had a problem because it seemed like they were getting rid of all the old salty dogs and replacing them with young people. But the employer's standpoint was, well, all the young guys do C++, and all the old guys do Cobalt, and I need the C++ programmers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how that ever washed out, but I think it was a defense because there's a legitimate training issue there.
Right.
But here it sounds like a funding issue, and I don't know if that's going to get them over the hump or not, particularly because, it might have been cheaper for them to do it, okay? Maybe it wasn't absolutely critical either, and then it would seem to say, you can't just discriminate against older people because it saves you money, because if that was the case, then you could lay off all the old people so you could hire the young people at a lower wage.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing, too, is that the young fellow that they put in there, he can't work by himself. He has to be accompanied by somebody all the time.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I would go to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission.
Thank you very much.
All right, my friend. Take care.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. 540-0580. That's kind of an interesting one. It's got my brain turning a little bit. Tammy.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Okay.
What's going on?
Well, I have a son that was in a bad car wreck like 15 months ago, and he wasn't driving, but he took the blame that he was driving, and 2 people were killed. And now that he wants to tell the truth, we're going to Cumberland County Court this week, and he wants to tell the truth that he wasn't driving. I don't know what to do for him.
All right, Tammy, the answer on that one is, does he have a lawyer?
Well, he has a public defender, and the public defender doesn't want to do nothing for him.
Yeah.
But now that he wants to come clean because he was taking the blame for his buddy.
Well, here's the Tammy. I don't want to have too many more details on the air because it sounds like this is eminently going to court. But I would strongly advise him to either sit down with his lawyer and get on the same page, or in the alternative, reach out and find a private lawyer and hire that person to get on the same page if he's got an irreconcilable difference with his public defender. I can tell you that in most central Pennsylvania counties, the public defenders are not only more than competent, they're probably more competent than a lot of private criminal defense attorneys. And I can tell you that in Cumberland County, that's absolutely true. So I know he's getting good legal counsel. But, when people suddenly come up with new factual information towards the end of the case or suddenly out of the blue, now that the heat is on, all of a sudden, whoa, it wasn't me, and it was really this other guy.
Yeah.
We kind of wonder about that.
I know. Why would you lie when all the facts come back on him that he was driving? And
so, Tammy, I would, if you want to get him together with a lawyer in my office, we'd certainly. If you contact me off the air, I'd talk to you about what we would charge to do an independent consultation to give you kind of a second opinion.
All right, can I call you Monday morning?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm going to be in trial Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I believe, but my office will be there.
All right.
You got email, Tammy?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, then call in and just let them know you talked to me on the radio.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
540-0580. Patty, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm the one that's on the air. Okay, thank you. I had called probably a year or so ago. My mother is involved in old family land in West Virginia.
Yeah, I remember this.
Okay. Well, they'd sent her a letter and saying that they were going to drop the thing about the Marcellus Shale and everything going through the property. All of a sudden, she gets a letter the other day. She'd been away for a couple of weeks, came back, and now they're petitioning the court for the permission to go ahead on the Marcellus Shale. They've talked to the Federal Energy Commission, and they're doing something through them, and they say we have to have a letter to them by the February or March 3rd if we want to be part of it. Otherwise, if we don't agree with them and do something with them, they're going to do something through eminent domain.
Right.
Now, we haven't even decided who all the land belongs to with all the cousins and everything.
Mm-hmm. I think I remember. Didn't I tell you to get a West Virginia land lawyer in on this?
Yeah, well, when they sent her this letter saying that they had decided they weren't going to do anything, we just dropped it. And then we came home yesterday and found this certified letter, and it was like, okay, we better do something. And Mom said, well, you'll be on the radio today.
Yeah, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to get a West Virginia land lawyer on this.
Okay.
That's what you're going to have to do. My magic powers only extend to the borders of the great state of Pennsylvania. So when I drive out of state, I lose all my legal knowledge because I don't know what West Virginia does or doesn't do, and people always want to think in their minds that the laws are very similar, but there are 50 little countries in America, and each one of those little countries called a state has its own laws, and they're all very different. So, for instance, not to be crude, right, but prostitution is legal in one state and illegal in 49 because the state of Nevada has chosen to say that that's not a crime in most of our counties. And my point being is, if you can imagine, in Pennsylvania, if you tried to legalize such a thing, it would be a huge fiasco. Marijuana is another good example. A number of states have said you may smoke marijuana, and some have said it's a looser structure than others. Most states still say you can't. A couple states now allow you to euthanize yourself. Most states don't. So just those three examples should show you how different the law is on major social issues. Well, it's even more different on land issues and who owns what and estates and who can write people out of wills and how land travels or whose rights and interests belong to who under certain circumstances. It's just different in every state.
Well, would it make a difference that their home company is in Pittsburgh, PA?
No, because it's going to be the law of West Virginia that's going to apply where that land is in terms of who owns what.
All right, because they're starting the drilling in Greene County, West Pennsylvania, and going on down through the West Virginia.
Yeah, but you still need a West Virginia lawyer on the West Virginia aspects of it.
Okay. Now, in Ohio, we found out, because my mother's paying all the taxes on the land, and some of the relatives don't even know that they're part of this. The one relative said he contacted his lawyer, and he said, well, if she's paying all the taxes, the land belongs to her.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it can mean something, but that doesn't solve the issue.
No.
All right. I told you a year ago what to do. I'm going to give you another shot at it, all right?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Patty.
Good day.
All right, love you. I'll see you guys after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. I hope by now you know we've got office in Lancaster. They've been running that ad for a while. I think we're gonna tone that go down and go back to just promoting the show for a while. And we've been continuing to expand. We've got 5 attorneys, including myself, in the office. And, of course, we've had a location in Chambersburg for a few years now. So if you're down in Shippensburg, Chambersburg way, we have an office down there, so you don't have to come to Carlisle. You don't have to come to Carlisle if you're in Lancaster. And we're working on a Harrisburg location right now. And I think after that we'll probably go to York or Hanover. It'll all depend. I'm thinking maybe Hanover because it puts us in between Adams and whatnot. All right, there's R.J. Harris in the booth. Oh, my gosh. Right? How are you, sir? He's good. He's famous. He's laughing now. 540-0580 if you want to get a question answered here on the air. Candace.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say Candace?
Yes.
I'm sorry. She just chickened out and handed me the phone here. Sorry about that. This is her husband, Brad.
Okay, what she want to know? You didn't sound like a Candace to me. In my mind, a Candace has a much different sound to her voice.
I was going to try disguising my voice, but I didn't go down that route. So, hey, she has a workplace situation here that she wanted to ask the legality of. She works in a restaurant. They have cameras, videotaping and taking audio also. And that the owners are constantly monitoring the employees from their home. And she just wanted to know if that was actually legal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you have no expectation of privacy vis-a-vis your employer. And, I've seen I knew somebody that was a manager at a fast food place, and they were describing to me now how they have the ability to just, whenever desktop they're on, pop up the web feeds of what all the employees are doing at the restaurant.
Yeah, and that's why I told her I didn't see why it would be illegal, but I said, you'd be the guy to ask.
Yeah, and the short answer, if they were doing it without your consent or your knowledge, we might run into a problem if you have an expectation of privacy in the area. Although, courts have held, for instance, that where a chief of police, go figure, was secretly turning on the speakerphone functions on phones in the break room and in the station room, so that he could listen to what the officers were talking about without their knowledge. The court said that was not wiretapping and that they did not have an expectation of privacy in their conversations. So I figure if that can be done, then I'm certain that if you know about it, it can be done.
Yeah, that sounds pretty similar. Okay.
All right.
Very good. Well, you answered my question.
Well, you tell Candace she must not have done anything wrong yet because they haven't fired her, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, man. Bye. Okay, let's see what Mary sounds like. Hi, Mary.
Hi, I had a question about salaried employees.
Okay.
I guess because you're salaried, you work overtime, but
salaried employees traditionally, and there's a whole test, and if you go online and Google and you just type like salaried and hourly, what's the difference? They'll give you the list of questions here. But basically, salaried employees usually have to have more managerial type positions as opposed to labor type positions. That's one good rule of thumb. But yeah, the salary is the way around having to pay people for overtime, because salary, you don't have a time requirement. You have a job requirement. Although the job requirement can also be a time requirement. So for instance, I could hire you as a salary employee and say you're also responsible for being there from 8 to 5, plus as many other hours as it takes to get X, Y, and Z done.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was a tier or a professional distinction of who you can salary. And
yes, there is, and that's why I encourage you, if you can access Google. If you can't access Google, then I don't know. I'm going to be worried about you. But if you get on Google.com and just type in what's the difference between payroll and salary. And what I'll tell you what, I will put something up. And I think we do have something on weekendappointment.com as well talking about that, but maybe we can do a new article on it for folks.
Because we used to have these salaried employees, but I guess because they only had a 2-year degree, they had to go back down to hourly.
The government wants you to have everybody hourly, right? And the reason they do that is they're trying to make you employ as many people as possible. So the preference in the labor law is to push people back towards hourly as opposed to salary, because then you get penalized for overtime, so that you would rather hire 2 people than pay 1 person for 60 hours, right?
Right.
That's the theory.
Okay, yep, I guess I'll have to look up more if it's professional based or...
That's one of the tests, but there's just, it's kind of a fuzzy test. It's not in a bright line. There's no magic. This is salary and this is hourly. And you'll even find that some organizations have people as hourly that other organizations pay as salary, and they're both legal. You can pay anybody hourly.
Right. I had the same profession, and I used to be salaried at a different location, and then if we worked a weekend, then you got your half a day off because they still made it a 40-hour week. And in this new position, you work your 40-hour week, and I understand about staying over and doing that, but then when you worked your Saturday...
They call you hourly. They call you salary.
You're still, they don't draw the line, so like you said, it could be a 60-hour week. It doesn't matter.
It's like the lawyers in my office. They all got to meet with me yesterday, and I said, so I'll see you guys on Sunday because I'm going to be in on Sunday, and we're going to go over all this stuff I want you to work on. So if you can imagine what an evil boss I was, I gave them all assignments on Friday afternoon and expect them to have them by Sunday afternoon done, and everybody's got a bunch of stuff they have to research and write because I intend to win this case this week. And but yeah, they're all salary, so they're stuck.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So I guess I'm working for you. All right. Thank you very much.
Mary. And she sounded like a Mary. Glenn. Oh, Glenn, I'm sorry, dude. Hold on. I'll take you off the air here. All right, folks, got to go. Make sure you go to weekendappointment.com. Make sure you check out the podcast on WHP 580 as well as at weekendappointment.com. And we'll be with you next week.